In this video, you are going to learn how to use the STAR interview method to answer behavioral interview questions so that you can pass more interviews and get more job offers. Now, if you're watching this video, you've probably heard about the STAR interview method or the STAR interview technique, but you're not really sure what it means and how to use it. And so don't worry, I've got you covered because in this video, I'm going to explain what the STAR interview method is, when to use it, and some common mistakes that I see candidates make all the time that lead to them getting rejected in interviews. And if you want more interview tips just like this, make sure you click subscribe down below and share it with a friend if you find it helpful. All right, so first of all, what is the STAR interview method? Well, basically, STAR is just an acronym for situation, task, action, and result. This is basically the blueprint that you can follow when you need to answer an interview question. If you think about writing a story, this is basically the outline of your story, and it's supposed to help keep you organized whenever you are answering an interview question and making sure you're covering all the important things that you need to cover so that your answer is comprehensive. So just remember, you're going to use STAR whenever you are explaining a project and talking about something that you have done in an interview. All right, so let's break it down. The S stands for situation. And in the situation, you basically want to first give some overall context as to what project you're going to be talking about in your interview answer and how it pertains to the interview question that you were being asked. So basically, you want to just give some overall context as to what is going on. Next, you're going to want to talk about your tasks. So in here, you're going to want to be talking about your specific responsibilities in that project and what you were specifically doing as a part of that project, which will then help answer the question and move the story farther along in the plot. Now, as a very important note, you want to make sure that you are talking about yourself here. You don't want to talk too much about what your teammates or your manager or what other people were doing in your answer. And then next, after you talk about your task, you want to talk about your actions, or basically all the specific things you were doing to actually accomplish those tasks and finish out that project. Now, this is very important because you are going to want to, in this part of your answer, talk about your specific skills that you were doing as it pertains to your job. So if you're in marketing, this is the part of your answer where you're going to talk about all of the different social media marketing techniques you used, all the different tools you used, all the data analysis that you did in order to arrive at a potential great campaign. So here is where you need to show off your marketing skills, or whatever it is that you're applying for. You need to know that this is the part of your story where you need to really show the specific skills and things that you did. Here, you don't want to summarize too much. So this is where you can show that A, you know how to do your job, and B, you're really good at it. And then finally, you're going to wrap up your answer by talking about the results. Now, this is arguably the most important part of your answer right after the actions, because this is where you need to show them the so what. Like why you doing this particular project or you doing all these actions and tasks was really valuable for the company. So you need to talk about the result and how it helped either your company, the product, or the team itself. And make sure to try to quantify your answer, or basically use numbers wherever possible, because numbers make your story far more impactful and way more believable, right? Because instead of just saying, oh yeah, I did all these amazing things and it was really good for the company. Or you could say, I did all these really amazing things and we saw revenue increase by 12.5% year over year. That sounds way more believable than just, it was good. Now, whenever you are using the STAR interview method, make sure that your answer is somewhere between 3 and 5 minutes. So when you are practicing the STAR interview method, or when you're practicing telling your projects using STAR, make sure that you're recording yourself and that your overall answer is somewhere between 3 and 5 minutes. All right, so now that you know what STAR stands for, when do you actually use this? So you're going to use the STAR interview method whenever you're asked a behavioral interview question. A behavioral interview question is anything that tells you or asks you to talk about your previous work history, or asks you to talk about something that you have done in the past. It's going to start with something like, tell me about a time when you did this, or give me an example of a time where you did this, or have you ever done blank, or when have you done blank, or do you have experience doing blank? If you hear an interview question that starts like that, they want you to use the STAR interview method as a part of your answer. You do not use the STAR interview method to answer non-behavioral questions. So, for example, tell me about yourself. You do not use the STAR interview method. If they ask you, why do you want to work here? You do not use the STAR interview method. This is only for behavioral interview questions, because if you think about it, they're asking you to tell a story. And so to tell a story, you need to have an organized outline and plot. And so that's when you use this. Do not use this for tell me about yourself. All right, so what are some common mistakes that I see a lot of candidates make when they're using the STAR interview method or the STAR interview technique? Well, the first one is that your answer is way too long. If you're not practicing your answers far in advance and recording yourself, the big mistake that people tend to do is they give way too much detail and they make their answer way too long because they think everything in their answer is important and they need to hear about everything that you've done. You need to find that appropriate balance between giving too much detail and giving too little detail. And if it's anywhere in your overall answer, it should be in the A or the actions. That's where you should give a lot of detail to show off your technical skills and expertise. Now, another common mistake that really surprises me is that a lot of candidates will use the words we a lot when they're telling their story or giving their answer. Now, you may be thinking that you want to show that you're a team player and that you get the whole team involved. But if you use we too much when you're telling your story or giving your answer, it's hard for the interviewer to discern what you were specifically responsible for versus what the team was doing. This actually could be interpreted as you didn't do anything and the team did all the work. Or this wasn't really your idea and someone else gave you the idea and you're trying to take credit for it, which is why you use the word we all the time. So whenever you're practicing, try not to use we too much. Another common mistake, which also surprises me, is that people forget to talk about the result, which is one of the most important parts of your answer. Almost everybody will do S, T, and A and then end their answer because either they're over the 5-minute time frame or they just forgot about it. The biggest reason for this is I've learned that people will try to memorize every single part of their story, and when you're memorizing things, it can be easy to forget, especially when you're in a high-pressure situation like an interview, where you're trying to remember all these little details and you're telling your story and then you feel like you're finished because you've been talking for so long and you don't want to keep talking anymore. That's what I hear all the time is when people forget to talk about the results or they skim over it, is that they just felt like they were talking way too much, and it's not that important, but it really is. And the last common mistake that people make, which always makes me laugh, is when people literally say during the interview, well, the situation was this, and the tasks that I did were this. So now, when you're practicing and you're recording and you're trying to figure out and nail down your answers, when you're practicing, it's totally fine to actually say these things out loud. So in your mind, you know when you're transitioning from the situation to the task, to the actions, to the results. But when you're in an actual interview, do not say the situation was as a part of your answer, because the interviewer will know that this whole thing is scripted and that you really didn't practice that hard because you actually have to say this out loud. Now, if you're applying for an internship or this is your first job, you'll probably get away with it. But if you're an experienced professional, do not use these words in your actual interview. All right, so hopefully you found this video helpful and it will help you ace your next interview as long as you are practicing these things correctly. And if you want more career advice, make sure you subscribe and comment down below what other interview videos we should make, because I want to make sure that these are as helpful for you as possible. Well, good luck in your interviews. Thank you all for watching, and don't be afraid to shake things up.